Hey everyone, welcome to Academy Standouts for week 8 of the 2021 summer split. Let's jump right into it and we'll talk about the first player I want to highlight this week, which is Isles from Cloud9 Academy. The team as a whole has been having a pretty up and down split. I think they're starting to be on an upswing again, which is a good time for it because we're heading into playoffs pretty soon. Isles, I think overall has had a really strong split so far. And this week he played Rel, Nautilus, Taric, Karma, a really diverse set of champions. And he performed really well on all four of them. He had a really nice KDA, 6.9, a 67% co-participation. He was making a lot of both, positive engage plays, which is something that is very easy to notice, and sometimes I tend to be caught by that with supports more easily than other things. But also being able to play the Taric and the Karma and just time the utility spells really well and all of the supportive work. He had a strong week, and a lot of, I think, Cloud9's struggles this split could be solved if Isles continues to kind of step up and go above and beyond like that. Another support player also up, Yursan. I believe he was on kind of the honorable mentions last week, or if not, he was at least somebody I was considering for it. He didn't have that big, highlight play front page of Reddit this week like he did last week with that great Nautilus hook, the predictive one, but I thought he was all around a lot more reliable and less of a mix of huge plays and also mistakes. It was a little more kind of in the middle, which is good and something I like to see. He got to play Alistar in 3 of his 4 games, and that also helps a lot because not only is it an eye-catching champion, but he's really good at it, and it fits the way he likes to play with, wanting to look for chances to pull the trigger and make a play, and Alistar is perfect for that, and it worked out really well for him. Like the comment I put in the written version, since he likes to look at those engages, it tends to be, a lot of very active trigger pulling, and he can come across a little bit coin flippy, but he flipped a lot of heads this time, and it worked out really well. Strong week. And then King. This has definitely happened before, that when Isles has a good week, King has a good week, and vice versa. King had a good week. He played a little bit of a different set of picks this week. A couple of Ziggs games, 1 game of Senna. So, ignore most of the stats because, those tend to express themselves a little bit differently than a Tristana or whatever is going to look like. But he positioned really well. He provided a lot of long-ranged poke and utility and all of that those champions needed to bring in. He also did have one standard Tristana game, which was actually the weakest game of the 4, I thought, from him this week. But yeah, I thought he really showed that he understood how to use those non-standard picks in good ways, which involved, for example, getting lane prio and bot and then leaving Isles there on the Senna, while he was on the Senna, leaving Isles there and then moving up on the map and actively pressuring the jungle with Surenfire and things like that. I really liked what I saw. I think King has kind of mirrored the fortunes of C9 Academy, more so than Isles, I would say, this split. And this was an up week for him and for the team, and you like to see it. So in terms of kind of additional standouts here, 6 players this week. Hauntzer was one. I think he had different solo kills and so on against TL Academy in particular. The games were really revolving around his lane, both turning around plays that were coming at him from the other team and also creating opportunities for his team to make proactive plays. And I think he had a pretty strong performance. Jojo Pion makes the list this time in additional standouts. He was, the kind of thing you expect to see from him. Very, very aggressive, very high pressure, moving around the map. His weakest game of the week was on a Lulu pick, and he's willing to go for these utility things, and sometimes they work out really well, sometimes not so much. This game was a loss on a Lulu, but his LeBlanc, Aurelia, and Lee Sin were all quite good. Kenvi was another one. A lot of names that you're used to seeing. I think as we get into the end of the split, you tend to see a lot of familiar names showing up on these lists, and Kenvi's another one. So 100 Thieves, they split 1-1 in both of their series. Kenvi had, a little bit of a mix of good and bad, but I'd say it was more like 3 good games and 1 off game. The big highlight was an Olaf game where he went 5-0-5. He also played Xin Zhao very well, doing kind of what Xin Zhao is intended to do, getting right in the thick of things and looking like he's trying to suicide into something, but having it work out well and just applying that pressure and making everybody pay attention to him. I thought he had a good kind of a good week overall, and pretty noteworthy. performances in general. Mystiques makes it in. It was a big week for supports, and maybe I'm just Alistair biased, but he had a couple of good Alistair games and a good Nautilus as well. The fun one to watch is if you watch the first game against Dignitas Academy, he picked up a double kill pretty early on. It was I think he was like 3-0-2 at one point, just like actively carrying the game on Alistair. It was pretty cool to see, and he used it well, and just had a good week. Palafox is one where, I think I could have snuck Jose Dioto and Johnson into this list as well, but they were a little less consistent than Palafox to me. The team in general went 4-0. I didn't think they played super impressively overall, and maybe that has something to do with, how well their opponents were able to match back against them. I thought their opponents did roll over a little bit, but I think Palafox was good. He played Rise, Silas, Lucian, Set. Again, like I always like to see players play a variety of different things and perform well in all of them. Obviously sometimes I'll give players credit for having a good week and playing three or four games in the same champion, but I always like to point out when there's that diversity and that flexibility in what they're bringing in within a single week. And he definitely did that. He really kept his death count low and was still playing aggressively and getting right in the thick of things. So Palafox gets the nod from me, but a couple of his teammates, arguably could have been in here as well. And Rosethorn, whose name has really been, I think, through the second half of the split, pretty consistent. But I think what's notable this week is that he wasn't just playing kind of the Volibear, lane ganking, self-sacrificial kind of a champion, which has kind of been his hallmark in the past. But his best games were on Viego and Gwen. More selfish, more damage output oriented, focusing on carrying team fights and things like that. And seeing him perform well on that kind of champion profile is really encouraging for his development. So I wanted to shout him out on this list as well. So those are the standouts for week 8 of the summer split. We've got 1 week left in the regular season, and then we have Academy playoffs for the top 6 teams. I'm fairly certain this is the format. The top 6 teams go to Academy playoffs. The bottom 4 go to the Proving Grounds qualifier. And then all of that determines qualification and seeding for the Proving Grounds itself later in the year. So it's an exciting finish. There are races to make that top 6. There are races to make the top 2 of the playoffs and get better seeding in the bracket. So definitely tune in this week and see how it all shakes out. And then we'll get into all the best of 3 and best of 5 play after that, which will be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again next week.